Okay, guys, welcome to another workshop, and I am so happy today to have Sophie B in the house with us, telling you all about Facebook and not breaking their rules. And she's got a really good presentation she's going to put together to you, which will really help you guys. Really good to see you coming in. So there's a few people coming to the participants already. If you want to put where you're from, we know that it is Thanksgiving today, so thank you guys from the US if you're turning up. And I'm going to say hello, Sophie.
Oh, like all the buttons. Hello, David. Hello, hello.
So I'm going to hand this straight over to you. You know what you're doing. Done this 100 times before. So take it away, Sophie. I'm going to monitor the chat, guys. So if you're asking questions in the chat, if Sophie wants you to come on camera or anything like that, then just let me know, Sophie, and I can unblock them and whatever. So you just let me know, and I will just facilitate. But for now, I will back out, and you are in control.
Brilliant. Thanks, David. Hello, hello, everyone. So just before we get started, can everyone just kind of let me know in the chat, what is it that you are selling? Like, what is your business? What are your sales pages? What are they there for? That would be super helpful. And as you're doing that, I'm just gonna book some courses, language course, awesome. Okay, while you're doing that, I'm just gonna pull up a presentation here. Maybe it's gonna let me. Here we go. All right. Can everyone see that okay? Just you can give me, let me see if I can see the chat here.
All good.
Brilliant. Thank you. Okay. So what do we got here? We've got books, courses, logistics, mindset coach, menopause knowledge, quilting classes, online person, therapy, nutrition, ADHD. But okay, awesome. So a lot of mostly courses, which is super helpful. So I kind of know how to guide you guys today. Life coach, energy healer, tarot, perfect, awesome. All right, it's super fun, right? Okay, so I'm going to be focusing mostly today on generating leads through Facebook groups, because there's a million different ways that you can generate leads on the online space, right? We can go on all the different platforms. I highly recommend that nobody does that. Not to go on all the platforms because it gets really messy and you end up driving leads through your funnel and not through the way you want them to go through. They end up just losing them. As somebody who has lost over 10 million leads in the past, I can tell you what not to do. But I'm going to dive into what to do instead today. So before we get started though, I just want to go over, this is what we're going to be going over today. So we're going to go over how to use Facebook groups specifically to generate leads. So I have a 4-part magnetic messaging system that I'm going to share with you. I'm going to share how you can optimize your profile to attract the right audience. So one of the common complaints I hear from a lot of my clients or people coming in as new clients will tell me that, oh, I have an audience, but it's not the right audience, or my audience is too broke, or they're not telling me they can't afford it. And so we want to make sure that we're optimized to attract the right audience, the people who are ready and are willing to pay and want the results today and not next month or 3 months from now. So I'm going to share with you how you can do that as well. We're going to go into how to dial in your message to attract the right leads. This kind of ties together. And then we'll go over a few of the common pitfalls to avoid to minimize the risk of your content being flagged. Recently, there's been a lot of shifts with Facebook. They're using a lot of AI. Group admins, you've got two issues, right? One issue being the admins can sometimes be a little sticky and they can sometimes say, no, you're not posting this, you're not posting that. Or you can just have Facebook's AI just kind of cutting your content off and throwing it out the window. So throughout this process, I'm going to share some of the things that you can do to avoid that happening too. So before we get started, just really briefly as to who I am. So my name is Sophie B. Sophie Byfeld. I go by Sophie B online. I'm a marketing coach and launch strategist. I've been doing this now for about coming up on 6 years, I think. Time kind of disappears fast. But I help course creators build social marketing funnels using sales psychology and storytelling content. So just some little snippets. So I sold up my very first group program about 4 years ago in less than 24 hours. I've signed over 800 clients to a new program within the last year, and I generate thousands of leads each month using Facebook groups for myself and for my clients as well. So just to give you a little bit of background, but I'm not here going to talk about me, I'm going to talk about you guys. So without further ado, I want to talk first and foremost about your sales page. How many of you have built out your sales pages so far? Just let me know in the chat if where you're at with that. Okay, so there's a common theme that happens in, yes, sort of, okay, awesome, yes, sales pages for each of the course. So this thing happens is that, well, I built it, so when will they come, right? Where are they? Where are all the people? And what we see happening is people not realizing that there's huge other pieces that come with it. So that looks like having a marketing and sales funnel. It has to kind of flow through from beginning to end. So a marketing funnel is going to be your magnetic message. It's going to be all of the content you're creating or the ads you're running or all of the ways that you are using to generate leads to your sales page. And then, of course, you've got your offer, something people actually want to buy versus what you just want to sell. We see this a lot too. People putting out offers saying, well, I think this is what my clients need or what they want, and it's not what they're buying. So what we actually want to do is know what our clients want to buy and sell them what they want to buy and then message it appropriately. And then, of course, the sales system, right? How are you actually converting the leads that you're bringing in? So for the sake of today, I'm going to be focusing more on the marketing funnel and the messaging because we don't have all day. So we're going to talk about those pieces, but just know that there is work to be done around your offer as well, making sure that your offer is really something that your clients want to buy, and then having a sales system to support the actual conversion of that. Because leads by themselves will not, unless you have a very well cultivated audience, which I'll talk about a little bit, it's content by itself is not going to do the selling for you. It's going to do the pre-selling for you. So really great content is going to generate the leads to have the conversations to bring them into your sales funnel. But what typically happens, and I see so often, is my clients will say, yeah, but I'm creating all this content and I'm putting it out there and people aren't buying. It's because their audiences aren't cultivated enough and or because they're relying solely on their content and they don't have a strong enough sales system. So what I'm going to talk about today when we get into the lead generating piece is how you can create a bank of content or how you can create content that's going to do the pre-selling for you, that is going to attract people who are ready to just jump through your sales system rather than you feeling like you're kind of pulling them through or kind of coercing and manipulating them into buy, which I'm going to take an educated guess not many of you want. So, all right, how are we doing so far? Everyone's following along, not going too fast? Okay. If I talk too fast, just let me know. I have been told this before. Okay, awesome. All right, so there are two different types of Facebook groups that you're going to encounter. The first Facebook group is going to be a Facebook group that you cannot promote in. They're going to have strict rules. The admins are going to have they're going to say you can do this, but you can't do that, no promo, and all of that stuff. That is going to be the majority of Facebook groups. There are also a subset of Facebook groups that do allow you to promote in. Right? Some of these are pay to play. Some of them are just you can promote in them. I myself have one you can just promote in. Right? You don't have to pay for it. You just go in there. You can promote till your heart's content. Most of these groups are going to be geared towards entrepreneurs. They're typically entrepreneurial groups. However, I like to look at it from a perspective of people aren't one thing, right? An entrepreneur is not just an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur is sometimes a parent, or there's sometimes, we've got interests in certain things, or we've got certain health things that are going on like this. We're not one thing. So when your messaging is super on point, you can actually play in these entrepreneurial groups and you can still get a lot of clients from them as long as you know what you're doing, which I'm going to get into. So just throwing it out there, there are two types, and at the very end as well, if anybody wants a list of these groups, I have a list of about 160 groups that I can give you as well. All right, so the 4-part system that I use is pretty simple, and I'm going to go through each of these pieces. So we want to first of all optimize your profiles, your platforms, and we want to use other Facebook groups or borrow other people's audience to attract people into your world, the right people into your world. We're going to engage and nurture those people and then set them up for conversion and drive them through your funnels. So the first place, so if I kind of a little bit of a diagram here for you. So the first piece here is to optimize your Facebook profile, right? We want the reality is when you are playing in the online space anywhere, if somebody's interested in something, they're gonna come and check you out. Right? They're gonna come and peer at your profile, they're gonna come and see what you're all about, and they're gonna come and kind of they kind of stalk you a little bit, right, before they make a decision. So we want to make sure it's set up and not just full of cat videos, right? So the next piece here is we want to attract your audience based on what they want. So this looks like a client journey, right? So we want to know, where is your client at before they meet you? What questions are they asking before they meet you? Because what I see, especially a lot of transformational coaches, what they will do is they will try to do a couple things, right? Where they're either looking and saying, okay, well, here's all the things that, my program does, right? My program, it's 12 weeks and you get 12 Zoom calls with me, and you're gonna, we're gonna be talking for an hour each week. That's not the result, right? That's just the vehicle of how it's going to get them. So that in itself isn't going to sell. Other thing that they tend to do is look on the too far beyond. So this transformation is going to happen and you're going to feel and look like this. It feels so unrealistic for the person who is still over here that it's too far of a gap between it. So what we actually want to do in the messaging is meet people where they're at. The simplest way you can do this, and I'm going to go into these more in a minute, is ask yourself, what questions are my ideal clients Googling before they meet me? What is keeping them up at night? Because those are the questions that we're going to be wanting to answer. And then there's various ways that we can drive, which I'll get into. Once people are in your world, we want to nurture them quickly. Right? We want people to engage with us. We want to get to know them, want them to get to know us, and then we can move them through into our sales piece. What I find people do is miss these two middle steps, right? So they don't optimize their Facebook or their profiles. They just go with this big wide net of, well, I can help everyone do everything, or I might be a little more specific, but it's still really vague. They miss the engaging and nurturing sequence, and then they just try and sell to them, and then they try and sell the vehicle instead of the destination. So it's like selling, okay, well, I'm going to be on Zoom calls with you, right? Nobody actually, like, as much as we would like to think that people want to spend time with us, they don't. Right? They want their results. So we need to make sure we're positioning those properly. So, okay. So the optimization piece, right? So we want to combine two things here, right? We want to look at human buying, selling behavior, and also create something that's going to work with the algorithm. Now, caveat here, I don't encourage anyone to tear your hair out trying to keep up with the algorithm. It's way smarter than us in terms of what it's always changing and moving, and you'll go crazy trying to do it, right? So the nice thing about what I'm going to share here is that you don't need to chase the algorithm, right? When you keep your messaging super simple, you keep the foundations in place, it's going to outlive the algorithm. I've been playing on the online space, not just in this business, but previous businesses for well over 20 years. And I can tell you that I've had a whole bunch of algorithm changes and crashes. And, back when pages were really, really, vibrant, and then groups are vibrant, and now pages are picking up again. It's always going to be swings and roundabouts. When you have the foundational messaging down, you can outlive all of it and you can just ignore it, right? You don't have to chase the algorithm anymore. So no, never figure out the algorithm. Don't try. Unless you want to, of course, unless you want to make that your thing. So, okay, so here's some really simple things that you can do for your profile, right? Number one is a photo. I cannot tell you how many people's profiles I go to and I see cat pictures or cartoon pictures or sunsets and whatever. And it's why they are all lovely, right? Humans buy from humans, right? People buy people before they buy things. So if you are a personal brand, you want to have your photo and a clear picture of your face so people know who they're buying from. They're cute. They are cute, fluffy little cat. I mean, if you're selling cat food, sure, go for it, or something cat related. Your bio, you want to have something really, really clear here again. What are you helping people do, right? So when I say what are helping people do, that's not how you're going to get people to where they're going to go, right? We don't want to say, oh, I'm a mindset coach, or I am, a health coach or whatnot. You want to share, what are you actually helping people what result are you helping people get, right? If we look at people as general, we're all pretty self-centered, right? We're looking out for ourselves first. And so think of your own buying behavior, right? When you're looking for a coach, or if you're looking for a course, you're not looking for a specific person. You might be looking for a specific person, but you're looking for a result, right? So when you click on someone's bio, are you more likely to buy from someone who says, I'm a mindset coach, or somebody that says what they actually do and how they're using mindset to help you to buy, or to help you get the result you're wanting? So get very, very clear on the result that you're actually offering, and make sure that is in your bio. You also want to put a link, so where people can go to. A word on link trees, right? I see a lot of link trees, and then you click on sort of this tree, and then there's like 20 different things. People don't do very well with choice. If we have too many choices, we tend to go, oh gosh, that's too much. I'm overwhelmed and I'm going to run away, right? So instead, if you're going to have a link tree, I recommend having no more than 3 links, but ideally you want to drive people to one specific place. So, for example, if you have a Facebook group and then you sell in your Facebook group, drive people there. If you sell in your stories, drive people there. If you sell on your email list, drive people there. You want to drive people to where you sell without selling first, right? Unless, of course, you have a really cultivated audience. So, for example, if you were to go to my profile, I do have a link right now that goes directly to sales because I have a cultivated audience. However, I also know that I will lose certain leads through that as well. So typically what you want to do is have 3 degrees, right? So people come into your world, they check out your profile, you send them to somewhere where you can nurture them, and this is the place you're going to sell. Someone's asking here, can I use a page instead of yeah, absolutely you can. Yes, you can. And then the last bit is your content, right? You want to have content that actually nurtures and sells, right? What I typically see is one or the other. I see people throwing out sales content, sales content, sales content, sales content with no nurture sequencing, or it's just inspiration, 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 nurture, 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 and there's no sales. So we want to make sure there's a healthy combination and balance of both so that you are nurturing and selling at the same time so that your funnel is continuously growing. How's everyone doing so far? Yeah, thumbs up or a thumbs down in the chat to where you're at. No? Bill's doing okay today. Okay, good, good, good. All right. So the next piece here is know what your audience wants and use other groups to attract. So I like to use other Facebook groups. Now, the caveat here is I rarely sell in other people's Facebook groups. What I'm actually doing is using other people's Facebook groups to grow my own audience. So to grow my email list or my Facebook group, or if you're on a different platform, you can use it to grow that, or to even grow your profile, your page, whatever it is you're growing. And again, leading people to where you're selling. So you can sell in other people's audiences if you want to, but it's harder. Right? Selling to a cold audience is always going to be a little bit trickier than selling to a warm audience. So there are different ways that you can do this, but I always recommend number one is using other groups to grow your audience. And or if you're going to do something where you're doing a live or something like I'm doing right now, is putting something up that's more evergreen, right? You're leading something that's more evergreen at the end of it so that it's not just here's my thing that I'm going to be selling for this week and it's going to go away forever and ever, right? So you want to also, sorry, I'm reading a question at the same time here. How by helping them? What do you mean by that, David? Other group you help or offer advice. Okay, so I'm gonna get into that. So basically what you're doing is there's a number of different things you're going to be doing when you are going into other groups. I'm going to use storytelling content specifically here, and I'm going to talk about it in a compliance standpoint because Facebook has recently changed a lot of its rules, and the FTC are coming down particularly hard on Facebook. And so it looks like, and I don't quote me on this, I'm not a lawyer, but it looks like what's happening is that the FTC are basically forcing Facebook to follow their rules, which means everybody using Facebook, no matter what country you're in, is kind of having to use their rules as well. So the easiest way to kind of stay away from getting in all kinds of trouble is being very clear that you're using your own story, right? So without using client stories and such, you use your own. So what we want to do in other people's groups is, again, looking at the client journey, right? What is the very first question that your clients are? It's the Federal Trade Commission, I believe is what it stands for. It's like the governing body of all of the marketing and such in the US. So what we want to do is we want to look at what that very first question is that your client is asking and create content and lead magnets around that, because that is the very first part of their journey with you. So for example, the reason I do most of my talks and most of my content on lead generation and bringing in leads is because that's the number first question that most of my clients ask me when they meet. It's like, well, how do I generate leads? How do I put my messaging together? Right? That's the first part of the journey. So that's the information I freely share. I'm like, here it is. I'll give you everything I know about generating leads and using platforms and such. So that's kind of how that works. So one thing I like to do here is just brainstorm with yourself, right? Maybe write down a list of questions or just free write, but just look at what are all the questions. And maybe if you've already had conversations with people in the DMs or you've had sales calls or you even have clients, take a look at what were their first problems, right? What were the first problems that they had and what solutions were the first they were willing to buy? Because one of the things that happens, especially with coaches, is that, or any course creators, we know what's beyond the questions our clients are asking, right? We know the journey better than they do, right? We know where they're going and the questions they're going to be asking. But until it's in somebody's awareness to be asking those questions, they're going to look for solutions to the questions they believe that they need solving first, right? So even though sometimes you know that it's backwards, I need to bring it, if it is backwards, that's cool, but bring awareness to why it's backwards, right? So that you can kind of help influence someone into a pathway that's going to be faster for them. But either way, you want to focus on the questions that they are asking and provide those solutions first. That's how we're going to drive leads. Now, in terms of how you're going to do this is the messaging formula that I like to use, which helps clean up messaging really, really well. Okay. So the first thing to know is, who are you talking to, right? We want to be very specific here. Now, unless you're specifically dealing with, say, women in menopause, which is a very pretty specific age, typically I don't recommend looking for ages, right? We're not looking for hair color, shoe size, or, women between certain ages or men or whatever. You want to look for personality types, right? What types of people do you work best with, right? What type of person are they? What personality traits they have? What skills do they have? What habits do they currently have? Like, that's what we're looking for, because the better you know that type of person, the better client you're going to get, right? Because we could say, oh, well, I work with single moms or I work with moms. Okay, great. But that's like a lot of the population, right? And they're all different types of moms within that subset. Versus if I say, I work with highly ambitious moms who, have, maybe they have jobs and they work, inside and outside of the home. Well, now I'm getting more specific and I'm looking at a personality type, right? So the more specific you can get on that, the better. Now, this doesn't mean you have to throw this out to the internet every time you write, but it is for you to know, I am speaking very specifically to this person each and every time, because it allows you to just repel everybody who's not that person. Now, I know this can get a little bit scary for some people because, but I feel like I'm losing all the people. And I just want to give you a quick example of this. I did a seminar a while back, and someone said to me that they worked with pregnant women and she wanted to work with the US. And I asked her why. I can't remember exactly where she was. I think she was in Finland or somewhere. But she'd said that she wanted to work in the US, and I asked her why. She said, but because there was more pregnant women per year in the US than in her home country. And I asked her how many, pregnant women per year in her country. She said it was about, I think, 38,000 approximately. And I asked her how many clients that she wanted. And she said, well, I want like 10. I said, okay, so 38,000 pregnant people 1 year, 10 clients that you're wanting. Why do you need to go outside of your country? All of a sudden it was like, oh, I don't, right? So just keep that in mind. All right, the second piece here is you want to know the result, right? What is the specific result that your client is going to get when they work with you, when they move through your program, when they're moving through the transformation? We want to know what that is. Now, when you look at your client journey, we can have stops along the way. So when you're generating leads, asking yourself, what is the very first result that my client needs or wants, that they're willing to give me an email address for, or show up to a masterclass for, or whatever it is that they're looking for. What is that very first thing that they are looking for? Because that's going to be the first thing you create for them, right? Whether it be a masterclass, whether it be a lead magnet, whether it be a webinar, whatever it is you're creating for them, that is going to be the first piece of their journey. And then you want to move them to the next piece, right? So then there's the next question. What's the next question that they're asking? And how can you solve that problem? What's the next question? Now we're going to answer that. This is also how we build trust, right? How many of you have been to one of those super fluffy 45-minute webinars where they sit there and they tell you that they're going to answer the questions and they keep telling you they're going to answer them, and then you get to the end and then they're like, okay, but only if you give me a credit card. Like, been to those? Personally, I think they suck. But this is how we can build trust without doing that, by just answering questions and being very specific about what you're answering. So the next piece here is being very, right, so frustrating. The next piece is, what problem are you solving, right? So you have the result, you know what they want, right? So what problem, now there's going to be two problems here, right? What problem does your client think that they have, and what problem do you know that they have? Because these probably aren't the same. So we want to be very specific and tell them, like, hey, we're going to help you solve the problem you think you have, but we're also going to bring awareness to the problem that you also have, right? So for example, a lot of people will say to me that they, I have a lead generating problem. I have a lead generating problem. And why sometimes that's true, more often than not, there's actually a sales system problem, right? There's a conversion problem. Like, leads are abundant. They're everywhere. Just take a look at your Facebook, your profiles, your phone, your email list. You've got leads everywhere, right? Usually it's a conversion problem. So I want to look at both of these pieces, and so that we can help, number one, solve the problem they think that they have, but also share with them how they can solve the real underlying problem to actually get the result that they're looking for. And then the last piece of this, which is the piece that most people are proficient at, is what method do you actually use to help someone solve a problem and get the result that they're looking for, right? So this is when you can say, I'm a mindset coach, or I'm a health coach, or I'm doing linguistics, or whatever it is you're doing. I use this method to help you solve this problem to get this result, and this is who I'm working for. Do you see how that works? Is this clear so far? Yeah, okay, awesome. Yes. Clear, good. I like lots of clears. All right. So, okay, so now this is the engagement part, right? This is where we want to actually get to know the people in our audience. Like, I don't know about you, but I like to know my clients. I like to know who's coming through my funnel. And yeah, sure, some of the lower ticket stuff, I don't get to know those people as well, but a lot of the time those people do become, clients where I get to work in closer proximity with. So people buy people before they buy things, right? So actually they buy people, and then they buy feelings, and then they buy things, right? So we want to create an environment where people feel safe enough and where they trust you enough so that they want to buy from you, because they could trust they're actually going to get the results they're paying for. So this is where we get to add value, and you can do this in lots of different ways, right? And I think the number one way of doing this is just being honest, right? We've all seen the internet and the way that people are just not honest about so many things. Like, just being honest will set you apart first and foremost. So your story, though, is going to create the most transparency, right? Vulnerability and all those pieces. But when you're sharing from a place of, again, I'm going to add value by answering this first question and sharing my experience, my stories. I'm going to share with you how I have helped my clients go from A to B. I'm going to share the transformation with you. That in itself is going to add value. The other thing that's also going to add value, which is a sales aspect as well, is by helping people become aware of their underlying problems, right? This is where the sales psychology comes in, because when you are saying, I'm going to help you with the problem that you have and the problem you have, here's the answer to this, but also I'm going to share with you, you also have this underlying problem, and I'm going to help you with this one too. This instantly builds trust, because people have ahas with you. When people can walk away from your content, your lead magnets, your seminars, and say, I got great value out of that, they can implement it and become their own testimonial. They're going to come back faster than if they have to read 100 reviews. right? And also if they have access to you in some way, that's going to help too. Now, it doesn't mean you have to be, you have to spend all day, every day chatting to people and, in the DMs and things like you take care of your time, right? You don't have to be doing that, but there are ways that you can create engagement. And one of the simplest ways to do this is by asking two sets of questions, right? One set of questions is going to be around what results do your people actually want, right? What is it that they're actually looking for in relation to what it is you help them with? And what problems do they have that are going to help them overcome? Now, one thing I will say about this is if you are dealing in a very sensitive subject, I wouldn't be asking people to, spew their problems all over the internet because they're probably not going to do it. Or some might, but again, just be mindful of what you're actually asking people to respond to without getting into it too much here. You can create something called a secret door. This is where a lead magnet comes in really helpful, right? If you have a quiz or something, if you have a more sensitive subject, then don't be asking people to put things on the internet, but you can create something where they can do it more privately. So it's a quick word on that. All right. So once people are in your world, your nurture sequence, so to speak, once people are inside your audience, there's three types of content that we really want to be creating. This is growth content, nurture content, and sales content. Usually what I see, somebody who has a big audience is really good at growth audience, but if they're not making sales, it's because they don't have the conversion piece in there. Alternatively, when you see somebody who has a super small audience and is converting really well, then they don't necessarily have a phenomenal growth strategy, but that's okay. They're making money, so who cares, right? But when you have all three of these, this is when it kind of starts coming together and you have a really well-functioning funnel. So growth is all the content that we kind of just went through. Like this is how you're attracting leads, you're bringing them in with your lead magnets. Your nurture sequence is what you're going to use, your storytelling content, your problem awareness content. It's going to help to build trust and authority. And then you're going to have your sales content. And this is when you're actually putting out your offers and you're actually driving people to either your DMs, to your sales calls, or whatever you're driving people to convert them. And these are all going to have slight different nuances, but they're all going to work together. So I go on here. Okay, so the conversion piece. The biggest thing, and this is so simple, right? But the biggest thing I see is people not making enough offers. Like how many times this week alone, for those of you who have your sales page up and running, how many times this week alone have you offered that to someone or to a group of people? Let me know in the chat here. And it's okay if you haven't. The most common question, the answer I usually hear is not at all. There you go. Not yet, but tomorrow. Okay. Every other day, it's huge sales time right now. Yes, holidays for sure. Amazing. So one of the common misconceptions is people think, oh, well, I'm gonna annoy my audience if I put too many sales pieces out, right? And unfortunately, with the algorithms the way they are, your audiences aren't really seeing your content a whole lot anyways. It gets an average of like 6% of your audience see your content every day anyway. So even if you were to put an offer on your page every single day, not everyone's going to see it. Do you mean an offer, for example, like a phone call or such? Yeah, I mean, an offer can be anything, right? But I'm talking specifically about, an offer to buy, an offer to work with you, right? To use the everyone tag. I'll talk about that a little bit in a second. Yes and no. I find it a little bit redundant now because most people have it switched off. You'll have a strange annoyance to it, but I do use it occasionally. So the idea here is that if you make the more offers you make, the more sales you make, right? Especially when you have a balanced bank of content. So when you have the nurture, you have the sales, you have the growth and all those pieces, then it's a well balanced, and then you're continuously putting out. Now, in terms of what that offer can be, it could be a low ticket offer, a mid ticket, high ticket. It could be an offer to join an audience or to connect with you, to book a call or DM, whatever it is. But you want to be making offers frequently, right? So once you get into automation and things, this could be simply in your email list, right? There's not a day that goes by where I don't make an offer somewhere. In fact, I make multiple offers per day at this point because they're everywhere, right? If you go to you'll find them on my profile, you'll find them in my email list, you'll find them in my Facebook group when people join, you'll find them, everywhere. They're everywhere. And the more automated you are, the more offers just keep getting out and the more opportunity. I like to think of offers like doors, right? And there's this thing that especially newer entrepreneurs tend to do, people with newer funnels, they tend to kind of, oh, I'm going to put this offer out and I'm just going to wait and I'm going to put it out. It's going to be there tomorrow and everyone's going to buy. And then the disappointment comes when they don't. I didn't realize how many offers you actually have to make sales and to make daily sales. You have to put a lot of offers out. So I'd like to think of them like doors, having those doors open, right? Maybe you do a webinar or something and that's living now evergreen. Well, that door is always open, right? You've got content that's sitting on your page. Now you have another open door. You need to have so many open doors. And the more and more doors that you open, the more and more sales you make. So all that to say is, if you're sitting on that fence and a little bit afraid or waiting or thinking that one offer is going to be the thing that just opens the floodgates, it's probably not, right? I mean, things can happen. I've certainly dropped offers before where I've had an insane amount of people buy from the same thing, and it's really cool when it happens, but it's not typical. Right? Even with a well-developed audience, it can fluctuate. So yeah, open those doors. Exactly. You've got these beautiful sales pages. You've done to make it super easy. So now just open. Just the job here is just to drive more and more people, more visibility, more sales. So, all right. So in terms of the sales conversations, I like to call them, right? It's really give your audience opportunities to have more sales conversations with you, right? The point of your lead generation is not necessarily to make direct sales, it's to start conversations, right? Lead generate to have conversations to sell, right? Now, those set conversations don't have to be with you in person, right? You could have a sales team or you could have it through your sales page, right? It's there to sell. You can have it all these different ways, but the idea is to drive to the sales conversation. So it kind of baffles me a little bit, although not at the same time, because I used to do it, is thinking that people would just ask to buy, and sometimes they do, right? When your content does its job, your ideal clients will ask you how. They'll say, well, how did you get that result? How did you do this? How can you help me, right? And then that starts a sales conversation. But it's amazing to me how many people go, oh, okay, cool, but no, I'm not going to sell you anything. And then the mind freaks out and we do all these things to repel the sale. Yeah, I'll answer those two questions in a second. So all that kind of in a nutshell, right, is that number one, optimize, right? Make sure that your profile is optimized, it's set up, it's ready for people to come. Like I should be able to come to each and every one of your profiles and know immediately what it is that you do or where to go, right? I should know exactly what to click on to get me the result that I'm looking for first. If I can't do that, I'm gone. I've gone to find someone else. And here's the thing about people love to buy, like people love to spend money on things that they want, right? So really your job is to allow people to know that you have what it takes to help someone get the result they're looking for. If they have trust that you can do that, they're going to spend money with you, right? So optimization is really important. Next piece is when you're actively attracting. So as we've gone over, using content or use ads if you want, although I don't recommend ads. My personal rule of thumb is run an ad once you have a funnel that has converted over $100,000. Once you've done that, go nuts with the ads because the messaging takes a little bit of nuancing. It takes work. It takes it takes experience with clients coming through, telling you what it is they're wanting and knowing exactly how that messaging is going to land. Otherwise, what tends to happen is you spend a lot of money experimenting with ads when you can literally do it for free organically. So I always say, get that organic funnel working, and then if you want to move to ads, you can. So attract and engage once you have people in your audience, nurture them, help them become, problem aware of the real problem that you solve, and then you can move them into your sales process. So let me look at some of these questions. How's everyone doing with this? I'm kind of at the endish here, so a good time to kind of take a little bit of break and look at some questions here. Oh, Jenny said how. Specifically how what?
I think she's actually asking about how do you do it. It's like how do you what is that open door? What's it look like? I was saying could be a marketing funnel, you know. So it's any way that you've opened a door into what you're doing. But
Mhm.
she's asking how. We show lots of workshops on how to create lead magnets and these sort of things. So I
Mhm.
guess it's very overwhelming, Sophie, for a lot of people because they don't. They're like at a stage. You saw the question you asked, like, have you got a sales page? And it wasn't yes, 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 yes straight away because
Mhm.
they're in that beginning stage and maybe frightened to take that next step and even have anything to have a door. That's what we find when we train people is that they're like I don't know what I'm supposed to create. I've got all
Mhm.
this knowledge but I don't know what I'm supposed to create. And it's catch 22. What do you think about
So
that?
I actually think this is a really exciting space to be in, though, because this is actually a mistake that I see. I see people build out sales pages before they're ready to build them. So I think, the how is actually to get talking to people, right? It's to know what can I help someone with. And I like to do, I say I like it's proven concept, right? Do things backwards. The people that succeed in this do the opposite of what people that don't, right? The people who tend to struggle the most are the people who build the course out, who build the sales page, they build everything out, it's all perfect, and then they're like, okay, now people will come, let's sell it, right? Instead, what I actually do is backwards, right? I don't build my courses out before I sell them, right? I don't build my sales pages out. I do a little bit now because I've got enough experience to know what my clients want, but if it's a brand new course that I haven't really played with yet, I sell it before I build it. Right. So this looks like knowing, okay, what is it that I can help my clients with? What is it that result that I'm looking for? And then talking to people, right? When you put questions out and you start conversations and you can sell people and say, hey, I'm putting this program together and I'm beta testing it or I'm running it. And so I'm looking for X number of people to come into this program. Okay, great. Well, now they can, you can discount it, or you give them a special price on it because you're building it out. Once you have all of that data feedback, then you can build the course as you go with them. And then you can build the sales page out because you know what questions they're asking to be able to put on the sales page. So I actually like to do it very organically, and it feels messy, right? There's this idea that we have to be polished or we have to look a certain way. And I think the problem is a lot of people compare themselves to people who have been doing it for so long who have all the funnels built out. Right? Like I have funnels built out, lots of them. Right? My business partner in one of my businesses, she has over 100 funnels, right? So it'd be really easy for someone to come in to, new and be like, oh my gosh, I have to have all this stuff. And it's like, well, no, she's been doing this for a decade, and that's not where she would start at all, right? So, the how sometimes is to really simplify it, which is why I say, don't go on every platform. Don't try and build out 10 courses. Start with one. Start with one platform. Start with one course. Start with one idea, one problem you're solving, one result you're helping people with, and just sell it, right? Learn to sell first. Learn to sell it and say, okay, come through, and then you can start building all the fancy stuff out. So
Yeah, I think
I
you're saying that is very interesting because one, let's face it, if we're asking our audience what they want, um, it saves us wasting time. If we put something together and it's not what our audience wants, we've wasted a lot of time there. Whereas if we get this interaction from our audience, then they feel they're contributing and they're more likely to invest in what you're doing. So I think
Mhm.
that's good as well. In fact, on that note, we're going to completely revamp the complete guide to Zenler and we're going to take people from our group to tell us what they want in it. So we're going to do exactly what you're saying there, Sophie.
Yeah, no, it's really important to get that client feedback. Like, about a year, well, just over a year ago now, a business partner in my with one of my businesses, we started a brand new program, right? Brand spanking new, never been done before, although we'd done similar things. We had 70 people sign up to that within like 24 hours, like immediately jumped in. We hadn't built the program yet. And that was transparent. We told people that, right? But we had that many people jump in. We built it as we went, and we've just finished or we're partway through running the third round of that program. Over 800 people have been through it. And every person that comes through helps us make that program better because we're always listening. How can we make this better? How can we do this differently? How can we adapt this to serve people at a higher level? And I don't think that ever ends. At least if you're gonna focus on your clients, it won't anyway. So okay. When do you post in Facebook group? Do you take leads to a specific funnel? So I like to that depends, right? That question's the answer to that question is gonna be it depends a little bit. I like to have, unless you're super proficient and in a space where you are, know what you're doing with your funnels, I would definitely start on one funnel, right? Really start generating leads through one. Keep it super simple for yourself, right? You don't need hundreds of funnels. I like to play and test out lead magnets in different audiences. So for example, I might have a few different lead magnets that I will test out to have, to see which ones generate not just most, but most qualified. I'm always looking at who are the most qualified leads versus the most people because more qualified are going to buy faster and just be better clients. So when it comes to building out a lead magnet though, and I'll just say this, I wouldn't go ahead and build some super fancy lead magnet and a super fancy lead magnet funnel before you've tested it. You can do this so easily in Facebook groups. If you go into a group, use the color block posts, you can click on the color and it brings it up. And the simple format for this is saying, hey, I have this result and this is the method that I used to, put it together. I've created whatever it is you've created, a training, of PDF, whatever it is. Does anybody want a copy? Does anybody want to test this out? And see how many people say yes to it. If you have 5 or more people say yes to it, go ahead and create it, right? If you don't bother. Now, that being said, I would put it out more than once, right? Try it in a few different groups because the algorithm can do weird things sometimes. I had a post. It was identical. Same color, same wording, 2 different groups. Both groups had about the same number of people in them. I had 0 yeses in one group and I had over 200 in the other. Identical. So put them out, see how they go, and then you can create it. So does that answer your question? Yeah, I heard that if you use your business page instead of your personal profile, you cannot interact in groups. On the other hand, if you use your personal profile containing your friends' messages and personal pictures, it does not look professional. So it depends. Some groups do allow for pages to go in, some don't. It's kind of more of a rule. You'd have to look at the admins and see what they say about it. There are some groups that will allow pages in them though. I personally use my personal profile and I haven't had an issue with it. You just have to kind of keep up with whatever the new Facebook rules are because they keep changing them as to what you can and can't do. It's kind of I don't think there's one versus the other. At the end of the day, if you have a way to connect to people and you have a way to talk to people, then it doesn't really matter what you use at the end of the day. Um, the ad thing confuses me. Many people suggest running $5 ads to test and attract. So the ad, yes and no. So again, this is just my personal preference in the way that I do things, but I like to see funnels generating leads organically before you test them. Once you have an organic strategy that works and you understand the messaging, you know who you're looking for, and it's very clear, then I would run, a low, I'd run a low test. So I don't know how much $5 US is going to get you anymore with the ads, but I would do it then. So I don't necessarily disagree with running a low test. I just wouldn't do it if you've never tested your messaging any way, shape, or form before, because you're just going to be paying to figure that part out. And from my experience, the messaging piece is one of the more trickier pieces for people to figure out. It can take some time, it takes experience, it takes talking to people, it takes having people come through. And courses evolve as well, right? So as we grow, as our clients grow, like things evolve, they change. So really understanding the foundation of messaging can just take time. So I just like to see people, figure it out before you spend money. But it's personal choice. Lots to think about. Need to get comfy selling. At first feels like overselling, but it's not. Appreciate the angle on Facebook ads. Selling is definitely a skill set, right? Lots of people feel uncomfortable selling. Um, how often is okay to change, for example, the content in a program because we learn that our audience feels. So that, I mean, I always like to say, move as fast as you need to move, right? So when you're really proficient at what it is that you're doing in the course you're selling, you're not going to need to necessarily change or shift everything up every time, right? What we don't want to fall into is people pleasing, right? So when we're running specifically like a group program and a larger one, there's no way that you're going to make a program that is going to be perfect for every person in there. But what you can do is get very clear on the expectations. This is what it's for. This is who it's for, this is what it does, and this is how it runs. This is what it doesn't do, this is who it's not for, this is how it doesn't run, right? You can get very clear on those things. However, you will find there are certain points along the way where people will find things more challenging or easier, right? So looking out for those things and how can you adapt those pieces. So for example, when we first put this program together, it had too much in it. And we knew that. We did that on purpose because we wanted to know where are people going to thrive and excel and where are people going to get stuck and what pieces are we going to strip from it to make it a better and better program. And the second time we ran it, we stripped probably 30% of what the content that we had in there because it was overwhelming and people were saying it's overwhelming, we're overwhelmed, we feel like we're behind. Okay, so that's a problem we have, so we can now strip things from it and move people through at a rate that's comfortably faster for them, right? So it's really about, it's not so much about changing the content as it is adapting to helping your clients get better and faster results. Um, and so I don't think, I think it's really about questioning what stays and what goes, and then what needs adapting, if that makes sense. We don't typically change everything because the basis is always going to be the same, unless you're completely like switching fields and saying, okay, I'm going to do something different. So let me know if that helped. Okay, is that it for the questions? Anybody any questions there?
Hello, Margaret. Hello, Tracy. Have you got something? Anyone want to say something to Sophie? You want to really get this information out of her. This is this is a chance for you guys. So raise your hand and turn your mics on. No? Oh well, I've got questions. So Sophie, it is overwhelming for people. We know that we've got a lot of people in the group that and this happens a lot where they go on our free plan. So we offer the free plan and then they
Mhm,
just stop. They stagnate. And
mhm,
there's nothing done, and then I'll get round to it. Some of them even come into the workshop, so they haven't actually started on their sites, and they'll come into a workshop on something like marketing funnels when when they haven't built anything out themselves. And I sometimes feel we do run a lot of workshops. I sometimes feel that we're kind of those people were overwhelming because they're
mhm.
seeing all these different workshops and not moving forward with anything. And I don't, it's hard. We say go and do the quick start guide, but it's hard to rein it back maybe for different groups.
Mhm.
So how do you feel like people coming in when they're starting this process? How should they start? You've already said it should be simple, but how should they start? How would you do it?
Yeah, so good question to ask. I actually built a new funnel yesterday, so it's exactly how I did it. Again, it's simple, 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 right? Like I think there's no getting around when you are selling online and when you have a course, there's absolutely no getting around learning how to market and sell, right? It's you're gonna have to do it. If you don't do those, the bloodline of your business doesn't exist, right? So those skill sets are something definitely you're going to have to do. What I look at though is you don't need to do everything, right? You don't need to learn how to be on every platform or sing every song, and you don't need to do podcasts and webinars and content and you need to pick one. Pick a strategy that feels good to you. Pick a strategy that you're comfortable and good at, right? If you're a great speaker, use podcasts, do masterclasses. If you're a great writer, have a book funnel or go through, write more content, right? Using the marketing strategy that's going to work best for you, using the foundations. However, I'll backstep a little bit to answer the question more succinctly. When I built out a new funnel, the first question I'm asking is, what problem does this solve? What solution does it offer, and who is it for? That's it, that's all. Right? I'm not building anything at this point. All I'm doing is I'm like, okay, I'm now going to go and find a bunch of people who have this problem and they want to solve it. And that's it. That's all I'm going to do. I'm then going to create an offer for them. So I'm going to put something together or a concept of an idea and say, okay, well, this is, say, for example, I used to be a cake designer many moons ago, and the funnel that I was building out yesterday was very specific to hobby bakers who want to, who want to learn the skills to, turn their hobby into a side hustle, right? It's very simple. So I haven't put this together. I've started to put this together. So the offer is that I'm looking at, okay, how can I create a course that is going to help a hobby baker take their skills and make some extra money on the side, right? That's the premise of the course. That's the problem, the solution I have. So now it's looking at, what does that look like? How much time do these people have? How fast can I solve their issue, right? What format do I want to teach this out? Do I want to be available for questions and things, or do I want it to be more passive? Right? Looking at all of those things, and then I can go out there and I can find some people and say, hey, do you want to try this for me? Now, I do recommend selling these things, right? People do pay more attention when they're invested and they've got some skin in the game. You don't have to go out there and sell a $10,000 course right? You can do it for 100, 200 bucks. Like, the idea is that you want buy-in from people. You want them to test the idea, and they're getting a result out of it, and they're getting something great. Once you have those people invested, now each week, you say, okay, I'm going to create a 6-week course. Okay, create a 6-week course. You sell them in, you give them a start date, you give them somewhere to go, right? Where are they going to meet you each week to do this course? And I always recommend doing the first course you ever do live, right? Even if you plan on doing something completely passive and you have people watching, you want to do it live, because you're going to need to know, where are people struggling? What questions are they asking? Where are they thriving? Where are they excelling? Where are they dropping off, right? David, you might have a better idea of this, but the finish rate of course completion, I don't think, is very high. So part of the challenge is getting people to keep showing up and to finish the actual course. But once you've done that and you have all of that information, well, now you can put it into a recorded course that you can resell and resell and resell, or you can sell the replays. Right? I do workshops quite frequently, and I will do them live. I run them for 3 to 5 days with people inside of those workshops, and then I sell the replays. Right? Afterwards, I now have something passive that I can just sell and resell and resell. But I always like to do things very organically, very live, and very simply, right? Once you've done that, you've got 6 weeks, you've got 6 weeks material, you've got your feedback. Now you can go and build the sales pages. Now you can go and market it to the masses. Now you can scale it. Now you can, do things, but build it first, right? Build it first. Then you can start focusing on the marketing and this funnel. So if you're in a place where your course isn't built yet, and maybe you've got the sales page, maybe you haven't, but you're looking just to kind of market to the first. I wouldn't create a huge marketing campaign. Your marketing campaign can be as simple as trying to connect with a few people who are interested in testing this thing out for you, right? So you can go into 1 or 2 groups, be consistent in there, and just put really simple posts up that say, hey, I'm looking for this many people. This is the type of person you are. This is the result you're wanting. This is the problem you've got. And I'm putting a course together, and this is what it looks like, and I need some help creating it. Be honest if you're going to charge for it, right? Tell them that and what they're going to get in return for that. But most serious clients aren't going to fight you on price. If people are really serious about something and they want what you have to offer, they're not fighting you at all. So I wouldn't worry about that part.
See, that's the part that I think people do worry about, especially new course creators. I think, well, I was as well. I fall into this category. When I first started, I did not put my courses high enough, because I was like, no one's going to pay £100, or so I was putting them in at like £10 or £20 when I first started. And I think that's something that a lot of you guys do. If you can relate to that, put yes in the thing, because you're like, oh, it's too expensive. And look at that. Look, Sophie just said there, oh, I'll get beta testers in there and I'll get them to pay $100 or $200. I bet you guys were shocked thinking that would be your full price. After. So that is a big problem as well, pricing. So what do you think about the pricing side? Because I know it's a struggle that a lot of people have, like not putting stuff high enough.
And I can so relate to that. I remember when I did my first $97 workshop, I was like, oh my gosh, no one's going to pay for this. Oh my gosh, oh my gosh. And that was actually my one of my first funnels that ended up making $15,000 off of that. So it was like really exciting. Actually 16. But um, I always say this, like it's easier to sell a 10,000 offer to the right person than a $10 thing to somebody who's it's not the right fit. Right. And in the very beginning, I remember selling those $97 things thinking, oh my gosh, like who's going to buy this? And I'm going to be stealing money from people because of all the crazy thoughts that I was having. Well, I have $100,000 clients now. So it's like night and day from the difference. However, I don't sell 100,000, 50, $100,000 things just online, right? I don't put those offers out there. Because it's a totally different ballgame. But I like to look at it this way. If you are offering something that can genuinely help someone and you're putting it out there with the best intent that you know that it can actually serve someone, whether they buy it or not is their choice. I always like to say our business is not in other people's bank accounts. Or what people do with their own money is up to them. We're just offering a service or product or something that we can actually help them with. Then let them decide, right? Um, but it's definitely, I mean, it's a mindset thing for sure. Like, there's no question. There's definitely some bumps I had to get over. I actually came from a background that, my money was, it was traumatizing for me. So I definitely had to work through that. But here's the thing, I think as well, and why I think so many new coaches and course creators get hung up on this is because it's not the money that's the problem. It's the confidence they have with their courses, right? The more confident you are with what you're selling and the more you believe in what it is you're actually doing, the easier it is. Like it becomes a no-brainer, right? Like I know now the course, like, and by the way, when I talk about $100,000 clients, right, those aren't clients who I'm like, okay, well, you've never started before, you've never done this before, and so I can build your funnel. Like these are people who are doing $1 million years. So these aren't like your brand newbies, and they would never sell that to those people. So you really have to know who your client is and be super confident on the return they're going to be getting, right? And when I say return, that doesn't necessarily mean money for money, right? A return on is something that somebody really wants, and usually that's a feeling. I like to use the example of a vacuum cleaner. Right? How many of you have a vacuum cleaner? I'm gonna guess most of you, right? How many of you have a vacuum cleaner because it looks really pretty in your cupboard? Right? Probably none of you. But you like the feeling, right? You like the feeling of having a nice clean floors, or maybe your mom comes over and tells you that the floors aren't clean enough, so you clean up before she comes over. Whatever the reason is, right? It's the feeling attached, right? So we buy vacuum cleaners because of the feeling of having the clean floors, not because of the vacuum cleaner itself. Your courses are the same, right? So when you're confident in the transformation that you're giving your clients, then the money is just a byproduct of that. Another perspective shift that I really like, Tiffany sells paper clips for $1,500. If you can change someone's life for that or more or less, it doesn't matter which, like just remember that. People are buying paper clips for $1,500.
Wow, that's crazy. That is really crazy. I
Mhm.
know Rachel's got a question. Rachel, if you want to unmute,
Hi, yeah,
just
can you hear
see.
me okay?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, yeah, really interesting so far. Thank you very much for all the great tips. But my question is more to do with the way Facebook is evolving since we're talking about Facebook rules. I've been a Facebook user for a very long time. Always used it a lot to keep in touch with my friends back home and whatnot and be part of groups and stuff. And I've noticed, like, especially in very recent months, the user experience is getting worse and worse, what with so many ads and streams and trying to push us onto reels. And now the latest thing is like breaking up my scrolling, every few minutes to show me an ad, which I click off. So I'm just kind of wondering, how is that going to kind of affect? Do you have anything to say about that affecting Facebook as a marketing tool in terms of setting up a group there and stuff? Because, I'm thinking if I don't even like to be there, what is even the point at this juncture in time?
So, I mean, Facebook, like any algorithm, is really intelligent, right? And what it's always going to show you more of what it is that you're clicking and watching, right? It's right down to, oh, you've paid attention for 3 seconds here. I'm going to send you more of this. I like to use the example. I went to Disney last week, and for a few months before, I was watching all the Disney videos and all the tips and tricks. And I would say 80% of my feed was Disney. Because that's all Facebook was showing me, right? It was more and more of what I was looking at. And so we
Mm.
can always change our feeds, but knowing that other people do the same thing, right? Which is where the engaging content comes in. Also, the Facebook wants people on its platform, right? It wants you to come back. It wants you to engage as well, right? It's a social platform. So the way that it seems to be working at the moment is that if you engage with someone or something, it shows you more of that content. So the same in reverse, kind of, you might notice that certain people are seeing your content and other people aren't. Like there's people on my feed, I haven't seen their content, even though they're producing it, I haven't seen it in maybe 6 months or a year because I'm not engaging with it. So I like to, and this is where you can get a little bit smarter with your leads, right? If you start to really get to know people and you start to know who your ideal client is, and you start to really get to know the people on your feed and start paying attention to your audience and start nurturing, your audience, you're going to engage with them, right? You can give them the thumbs up, you can write comments, and then you're both going to be seeing more and more and more of each other's content. You'll start to see what groups they're posting in and vice versa. And so it's going to bring your community closer. It seems to be the way that it's worked that way for some time at least. Again, there's no, I think the biggest issue we have when your newsfeed looks a little bit like a messy bedroom and you're like, or like, the flyers come through your mail, you're like, what just happened to my carpet? It's typically because we're using Facebook as a post and ghost platform, right? So we're posting, we're ghosting, we're leaving, right? So Facebook's like, I don't know what to send you anymore. Or you're just doom scrolling through everything. So it's like, I don't even know what to send you. So I'm just going to keep sending you whatever, right? So versus when we're intentional about it, and we're very intentional about the content we're putting out, the people we're engaging with, or the content we're consuming, your feed will clean up, if that makes
Mm.
sense.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I think Facebook's a difficult one because we hear it every day. There's a lot of our users, they just will not go on Facebook, and like it's evident if you look at all of the new platforms that come, existing platforms plus new platforms, everything's now gearing towards self communities. So communities hosted on things like YouTube now coming out. Obviously we're bringing our big community out, and it's because we see this shift between people not wanting to be on a platform so much. Maybe they want to be there, Sophie. They want to be there, but they don't want to be reliant being there. They want to be in their own kind of self-managed community. That's how I see it sort of going. I think there'll always be a place for Facebook, but maybe just for looking at things, maybe attracting more people in, and it might turn more of a marketing way than the community is now, because Facebook's got this really bad rap of just doing things. They don't tell you, they do it. You can't contact them, and the privacy side, they'll just like put things in place without telling you. It's like on steroids with Facebook. They don't care who they upset, which is kind of cool, but also very bad at the same time.
I mean, you just touched on something. I mean, this is really it, right? It's like I use Facebook as a list builder, right? Facebook is really about generating leads. I mean, yes, I have, friends and connections and clients and I love all the people in my world, but it's really about getting people off the platform, right? I mean, I do and I have run groups and programs on Facebook, but they are becoming more challenging because even the group, Facebook doesn't know what's been paid for and what hasn't. You're not technically supposed to do it anyway. So they don't necessarily know that. So 30% aren't still getting access to that. So, you still have to, if you're running a course off of Facebook, you'd still have to have the email campaigns going out to have people drawn. So it comes down to learning how to intentionally drive traffic and always doing that, right? So you're going to be using Facebook to drive traffic to your email list or to your, if you have a community off of Facebook, to driving them to that and keeping them coming back. And that's going to be the same for any platform, right? And I saw this the other day, and someone was saying, school is so much better than Facebook. Well, you can have a community over there, but you still got to drive people back there, right? Same with your Zenler. You're going to have to you're going to have to drive your community back to where you want them to be at the time you want them to be there. And that just comes from understanding human psychology, right? Comes from really understanding what does somebody need? What does somebody want? What is going to motivate them to not just come into my world, right? Look at the journey again. They're going to come into my world. I'm going to motivate them to come in here. I'm going to motivate them to buy through the funnel. Now I'm going to motivate them to do the course, to stay in the course, to get the results in the course, maybe to become a repeat client. Like there's all of these pieces along the way. And that's simply just understanding what does my client need and want at every step of the way and what's going to help motivate them.
Yeah, exactly, and it's that's the way forward to it. I don't see, Facebook's group. I mean, you get this thing again. You get this other thing. I also say to people like, you're using Facebook, you're using things like Instagram, TikTok, or YouTube. You're using that to generate business. You're shouting about your product and getting it out there. And some people say, well, no, I don't want to be on Facebook, and that's your choice. Absolutely fine, but that's your personal choice. That's not your business choice. Your business needs these things, and that's a big difference. So some people say, I don't want to be on any socials. Absolutely fine. You won't generate leads through those platforms, and you won't help your business. So that people kind of take it too personally, and it's like a tool for attracting something. It's like putting an advert in a newspaper. People do that. They haven't got a problem with that, yet they've got a problem with being on a social platform when they're just talking about their business. They don't need to share their personal life, they just need to talk about what they do. That's how I feel.
Yeah, and again, that's something for sure. And I think when I get into storytelling, I always say share from your scars and not your wounds. If you are someone that's going to use your story and share it vulnerably, again, total personal choice. You don't have to at all. I find women tend to do it more than men, just from what I see. But if you are going to do it, again, really understanding how your story is impacting the person that you're talking to. Because I see this a lot, people going back into their devastating sob story. And who is that attracting? Well, somebody who is stuck in a devastating sob story, right? They want to show the transformation of this. Yeah, sharing from your scars and not your wounds is my best advice on that. Yeah.
That's perfect. Have we got any more questions, guys? How's your throat, Sophie? I've had a bad throat for ages. It's quite hard to talk for.
My
I've had this
throat's
horrible
actually
cough.
no. We're going into dry season, and I live in Canada, and the air is getting dry at this time of year. So it's when everything starts to just. But I'm good. That's why I keep like buckets of water around my desk.
Always have the water, guys. Always.
Yeah.
All right. I don't know if there's any more questions coming in. A lot of people have asked, can they get hold of this list? Have you got an offer? Have you got something that you want to tell everybody about? Share your website address or any of those things. We will be putting stuff in the replay. So if Sophie's got nothing to show us now, she'll send stuff and we'll put it out when we send the replay email out. But if you've got anything to show now, I'm sure our audience would love to see it.
Yeah, amazing. So I do. I will. I'm gonna just I'm gonna update the list just a little bit, and then I'll send it to you, David, to send out. It's because I want to make. There's a few that have changed on there. So the list itself is about 160 Facebook groups. Some of them are pay to play, some of them aren't. I try and list that, but I would encourage if you do pop into those groups just to take a look at the rules when you enter, because they tend to change and shift and all the things. My Facebook group will be at the top though. That is not pay to play. You can come in there, you can promote your stuff all you want. There's no rules around that. So I'll have that on there as well. But I'll send that out to you, David, when I refresh that list so that it's a little bit more up to date, because I've got some new groups to show up. But otherwise, I do have something special for David had asked me to put something special together, especially being Black Friday. So I have done that for anybody that wants to hear about it. So I have a client attraction program. It's called Be Magnetic, which is my $9.97 program, which basically goes into all of the pieces of the sales funnels, the storytelling pieces, goes into the offer building, goes into basically everything you need from start to finish, how to build the lead magnets, like all those pieces. What I have done, so I'm revamping this program as well. So what I've gone and done is I'm going to offer that to you guys for $99 if you want that. And if you jump into this one, I also have a storytelling workshop coming up on the 10th of December, which is 3 days where I'm going to dive into helping pull out your story, pulling out, how to actually take your story and put it into content. So you'll have the full bank of content, give you my 7-piece system and my 90-day content calendars, all of those pieces. So you'll have access to that. You also have access to me to be able to actually ask questions. These workshops are really quite small. I don't take too many people in there, so there'll be lots of opportunity to actually dive into your message as well. So if you want to jump into the My Be Magnetic program, you want to grab that, then you can grab the storytelling workshop for free as well. So anyway, this is yours for $99 if you want this today. So I'm going to leave that for you as well.
Wow. So what do we do? Will I put that in a link? Will I put that as a link in?
I can drop the link right here and then I can give it to you too. Oops, if I can find it. Hang on a second.
Yeah, drop it in there, and then wow. So you're doing $99, and you get two. So you get the main program and you get the storytelling one as well.
Yes, exactly.
It's not even Black Friday, guys.
Yeah, so
That's crazy pricing.
it is really crazy, and I know that it's really insane. So there's for you if you want it.
Right. Oh, perfect. You got it in there. Okay, great. I can grab that. Perfect. Right. Lovely. Thank you so much. So this will be emailed out with the replay as well. You're going to get that link in there so you guys can click and grab that offer. Okay, I'm going to try and get the replay video up. I've got Tracy's from last week to do, but I'm going to try and do Sophie's as well. So tomorrow morning before 11 GMT time, I will try and get both of them up there for you. Sophie, thank you so much. Guys, big round of applause for Sophie. That was amazing, wasn't it? Give us your thanks in the chat and on camera. You guys are shy. You don't come on camera much. That's good. Right, yeah, everyone's loving it. Thank you so much, Sophie.
You're welcome.